Get the production he's getting compared to what we got out of our inside guys, even 2 years ago. Most of our sacks come off the edge, and so with him in there, it's hard for them to not have to double team him now. And so I think that in the future can help us open up some stuff on the outside edge again. So we just need to keep growing. He needs to keep growing as a player, and we got to keep growing as a unit up front to keep the production going.
I'm sure you'll say there's still a lot of areas to get better, improve, all that, but you're a little, you admitted you're a little nervous, a little concerned coming into the year, and we look up and you guys are, I think, tied for first in the nation in sacks right now, through this point in the season. How overall have you been with your group?
Like you said, there's still a lot to improve on. I'm happy for what we've accomplished so far. A lot of it hadn't been exactly the way we wanted it to happen. We've given up some things that we didn't want to, but we got to just keep growing. Really, I talk to them about playing one play at a time, and I think that's the way we got to still approach it. We got to, every day at practice, we got to keep working on the little things and getting better, and we got to keep in the game, keep trying to grow as a group, because right now we're having to play that's 4 starters a lot more than I really want to. So we haven't, one of our goals was to bring on depth, and we haven't reached that point yet. So we got to just keep growing as a whole unit, not just as one person.
How much is it just guys getting their opportunity and wanting to make the most of it?
Well, I think he's stepped up and made the most of his opportunity, and when those guys behind those first 4 can start stepping up and making more plays and doing things consistently, I think you'll see us even grow and become more productive as an overall unit, rather than just 1 or 2 guys making the plays.
Last weekend, Utah State gave Air Force all they could handle in that game. What are going to be the keys to stopping Kent Myers in that offense?
Well, we're going to have to play really well up front. When you look at their offensive line, they got 4 seniors on their offensive line, 3 guys coming back that has over 80-some starts altogether. So we've got to play real well up front. We got to be disciplined in our pass rush lanes, because he's, I think, their second leading rusher right now, Myers. So we've got to do a great job of still being able to rush the passer, but do it and constrict the pocket so that he can't get out of there and destroy us on 3rd downs.
Getting back to Mo real quick, and you mentioned teams maybe going to have to start doubling him stuff. So how much over the next few weeks is he probably going to even have to continue to grow and figure things out in those regards?
Well, I think a lot. I think every game he continues to grow as a player, because different things has happened to him. They're trying to block him in different ways, like you just talked about the double teams, and in that position that he plays in there, you got to be a man now, because they're coming in. There'll be times there'll be 3 of them on him, So he'll keep growing and growing, and he learns to take on those different schemes and work those different schemes. And each week, there's something that comes up different, and he's been able to handle it so far. So hopefully we can keep him coming.
With him in the first game, asked him afterwards. He didn't have a tackle in that game, and then you see 4 sacks over the last 2. I don't know if there's been a difference, or it was just kind of the way the game's played out.
Schemes and the way the game's played out, and you go back and look at how many times they, especially Washington State, threw the ball, and then we got them in situations last week where we were able to really rush the passer and do some things, and that's what we got to continue to do. We got to win them 1st and 2nd down, and hopefully get to 3rd down and be able to put some pressure on them.
You mentioned the depth behind the top 4. Who are a couple guys that you'd like to see kind of take that next step?
I think Louis is getting better. He's doing a good job in there behind David. We're still looking, I think, our 3 technique tackle position. I'm still looking and battling there to see how we can be the best we can be. Sam Whitney and obviously Jabril has played well. At the end, we're still, Durant Miles he's still growing. As you know, he came in back off his mission last year and he ended up playing, but he's still got a ways to go. So really, probably the guy that has stepped up the most would be Louis behind David, and then the rest of those guys are still, they're coming on. Sam Whitney's played well. He played really helped us out a lot last week. Did a good job. He and Jabril and with Gabe over there, just day by day to see which one of those three played the most.
I mean, there were a couple other names, Chase and other guys that we did hear a lot about early on, and haven't really heard or seen them much. I mean, are they just coming a little bit slower than you thought, or is it more of those top four you just can't afford to take them out?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And we get in a situation about the time that we felt like maybe we were going to be able to play them last week, and we let those guys back in the game, and that's those first two groups' fault. We got to be more consistent, like I was talking about. The consistency, especially in the third quarter, is where we got to be better at. And then we get to the fourth quarter like we did week one, and we were able to play those guys. Right now, for us to put those guys in the game when the game's still on the line is pretty tough. So they have not progressed to where we want them to yet.
How important is it for guys to recognize maybe, I know they probably want to make plays every place, but to recognize a situation when you really need one? You talk about David not being on the field on third down. Well, after the first fumble, I believe, I think he had a sack on third down, which forced a field goal, and he said that he realized he needed to make a moment at that point in time after the game, or make a play.
Well, I think that's huge. When a young man comes in with that kind of attitude, and we talk about it, somebody's got to step up and make a play and help us get off the field. And I think that's an attitude. Who's it going to be? It's up to me to get it done, and I got to get it done. And that's the approach that we try to get them all to take.
Is that we talked with Elliott the other day, and he pointed out to us that he doesn't have a sack yet this year, and he said that he just wasn't really pleased with his performance against Oregon State. Thought he could play better. What have you seen out of Elliott?
Why do you think he said that?
I think I saw
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like he's been challenged.
No, he has. Elliott's been challenged, and he knows he needs to step up and play better. He is a senior, and he going into this season, he had played a lot more than David, and was really expecting a little more out of Elliott than we've had so far. And hopefully, he does exactly what he said, that he steps up, and this week he will be more productive. And he knows he's not playing the way we expected him to. And part of it, he's got a lot bigger role than he's ever had. You look at it, if he got 12 snaps to 15 snaps last year, and he always was fresh, and he was productive. And now that he's having to play 60, that's a whole different story. So just like I said earlier, we need someone to step up behind him that we trust to put on the field, so that maybe Elliott's playing 30, 35 snaps, then he can be more productive, and the person behind him can do the same. We're not there yet.
You mentioned maybe some of these guys not being quite at the level you wanted to. You also joked about maybe you would be in a better mood now than after practice. So what has this been like for you? How have you been kind of handling, kind of bringing these guys along, and maybe some of the, maybe not quite to be where you wanted at this point?
Well, my hair's not only gray, it's turning loose. So it's been a big challenge. And I guess I get a little impatient sometimes, because we joke a little bit on Tuesdays. A lot of times it's like starting all over again. We play on Saturday. Sunday we watch the film. Monday is their off day, and then it's like you get out there on Tuesday. Well, starting all over again. But it's still a challenge. Just like I said, developing that depth. But overall, it's a lot of fun. To see the young guys, or a guy like David even, come out and be as productive as he has been because of what we have taught him. And that's where you feel good about yourself, and you feel good about what you're doing.
As a staff, obviously, look at Utah State, last year it's a game everyone wants to forget, but obviously it's a motivating factor for a lot of, for some of these players. How much, as coaches, have you guys thought about that?
Well, I'm not going to let a day go by that they don't know what happened to us last year. So it's not a thing in the past. We have to step up and play a lot better up front than we did last year. What they were able to do against us last year was really embarrassing, and I think all of the guys that were part of that game, or just a part of this team last year, feels the same way. So we'll be ready to go play come Saturday.
How do you try to, it's been asked as some of the coaches, this balance, having that be a motivational factor, but also, not let it kind of overwhelm and, get them too fired up, or is there such a thing?
I don't know that there's you know, there might be a thing that you don't want to peak until the right time on Saturday, but I don't know that you can ever be too fired up.
This is 3 out of 4 games, Coach, where you actually play a team that beat you last year. The next 3 out. Is this kind of a big stretch for you guys?
I think it's a huge stretch, and that's something that we've been trying to motivate them with. And the big thing is the consistency, like we've been talking about. You got to go play every week. Forget what's in the past. 4 is our record. We're 1-0. We're trying to be 1-0, and that's been our theme the whole year, and then we're going to continue to do that.
I know that when we talk about stats that translate to wins, usually turnover margin is the best, but last year in the NFL, the top 6 teams were the top 6 teams in sacks. Why do you think that's a stat that correlates directly to success?
Well, if you get a sack early, it puts them behind the chains, and obviously if you can get a sack on 3rd down, it gets you off the field. So anytime you're able to get the TFLs or the sacks, I mean, you get the offense behind the chains, and that gives you an opportunity to do things that you might, where they are ahead of the chains, and you got to be a little bit more aggressive than you want to, maybe where you can do some things on 3rd down that they really got to think about, whether you want to bring pressure, whether you want to drop 8. So it gives us an option, where when you're in 3rd and short, you don't have many options.